Hey everyone, it's Angela Allen from the Handmade Homestead. Well, I was out in the garden anyway, and my wonderful husband happened to walk by. And I've told you a few times how I'm only 5'2". Well, he is 6'1". So I handed him some clippers and I had him help me harvest the squash off the tall trellises that I couldn't get to on my own. It's heavy. The way you cut that last one too, just give it a big margin. Yep. It'll be easier to get them down. It is. There's one right above your head too.
Oh yeah.
Will it come down through the hole, or do I have to go around and catch it? I want to be able to get this down, you know. As you know, I am an urban homesteader, so we garden on about 1/3 of an acre in suburban Portsmouth, Rhode Island, which is just outside of Newport, Rhode Island, on an island called Aquidneck Island in Rhode Island, Zone 7A. So my neighbors are awake now. It is a Saturday morning. It's just starting to get warm out here. It is an actually beautiful right before the beginning of fall day. So you're going to hear some kids in the background, and I think one of my neighbors is leaf blowing a couple of houses down. So I apologize for that noise. Oh, and the plane overhead too. But we're going to carry on to get through this video anyway. Well, we're still having pretty temperate days in the mid to high 70s. We've had a couple of 80s, but most are lower. Our nights are definitely getting cooler, in the mid to lower 60s most nights. And our trellis vines for squash, as you can see, have definitely seen better days. They are done. So I do plant early so they get to maturity faster here, because they do have a temperate climate. So it's definitely time for these to come down. Sorry about the eye roll. Somebody's now mowing their lawn, but that's what you get when you live in an urban setting, and I'm okay with that. We have absolutely phenomenal neighbors. So anyway, so Mike helped me cut down the squash, and I'm going to bring them inside and process them. I'm going to show you guys how I do that to get the most longevity that I can out of them, to get them to last as long as I can. Most of my family is not big on squash. My husband doesn't really like it. It's really just me and the 2 dogs that eat the most of it. But my husband and my son will definitely eat it in baked goods, breads, desserts, pie. Did I say pie? Did I mention the pie? Yeah, they'll eat it like that. So I don't grow a ton, but I grow enough, and I do give away quite a bit. I've already brought probably more than a dozen squash in the house. I've given some of that away to friends that are people that I know in my community that have needed it, and I do have a few left, and I have all of these that I'm bringing in. So this is all of the squash except for 2 butternut, Waltham butternuts that are still on the vine, that are good size, and they haven't started to ripen yet. So I'm going to give them the chance, because we do really have another month, at least a month I would say, before we get our first frost. Let's talk about butternut squash. From here where I'm standing, all the way down to the end of this row, there's one squash plant. Now I've already pulled off some of the squash. I left a couple on so I could show you. These are absolutely ripe and ready to come off. Now how can you tell when to pick butternut squash? You will notice that they'll go from green to yellow to this nice tan color. You can see it's definitely a tan color. And these necks will start to get a little bit woody, though they will probably still say green. And when you harvest, you cut way up here, give them as much neck as you can. And then the other one is the nail test. You push your fingernail in a little bit at the neck. If I can get close enough to show you. And you put your fingernail in and you push. And if you leave the fingernail mark, then they're probably not ready. But if you can do that and not really leave a fingernail mark, you know that they're cured enough to bring in, or they're ripe enough to bring in, and then you can cure them. But this one vine had 7 butternut squash on it. So that was pretty crazy. Just in case I've never showed you these, I love these little squash cradles. They have a little point at the end. You just push them down in the soil underneath your squash, and keeps them off the ground, keeps the bugs off them. They actually do really well that way, I think. And the good thing about these at the end of the season, they do stack, and you can stack them like this to use them again. You wash them off, use them again the next year. They are plastic, but you can use them for years. I've had these for many years. I've already picked more than a dozen kombucha squash, and probably another 6 Waltham butternuts. And those are already have been brought in the house, cleaned up, and were cured. And this is all except for the tromboncino squash, which isn't ready. It's not fully this color yet. And there are 2 more Waltham butternuts out there that are about this size but still green. I apologize for the sniffing and the coughing. I have wicked seasonal allergies. I actually have environmental allergies, so I have them most of the time. But this time of year, they're especially annoying. And the tromboncino squash, that could still take another month. It's really quite a large squash, and though some of them are starting to turn that nice orangey apricot color that so matches a butternut squash, they need to stay on the vine for longer just to fully ripen, again, because they are so big. So it seems like everybody is awake now. There have been 3 planes, 1 helicopter, a car, a leaf blower, and now a lawnmower. So I'm thinking it's time for me to go in, get these processed, show you how I do that, and yeah, give the outside space back to my neighbors. All right, let's go. Hey everyone, before I go any further with this video, I want to jump in here with a little informational thing that I think you'll all be happy to know. I just took a quick look at the mail while I was having a drink of iced tea, and I noticed there was a letter from Baker Creek, which I thought was kind of odd. I do buy seeds from them. I buy a lot of seeds from them, and I buy them often. And I really like the company for what they offer for heirloom seeds and customer service. I've always had good luck with them. But here was this letter, and I opened it up, and it was actually a letter of apology. Apparently, during this growing season, there were some seeds that were mislabeled for, I believe it was for basil. They were mislabeled, the Genovese basil. Some of it must have been mislabeled as Thai basil, which I love Thai basil. I probably wouldn't have even noticed if I put those in my garden. I might have thought it was on purpose. But at any rate, in the packet with the letter of apologies, there was 2 packages of Genovese basil to make up for any mix-up that might have happened with seeds that I may have gotten from them. Now, I wouldn't have been mad either way because mix-ups happen, and I love this company, but I wanted to share that with you all because these are the kind of companies that do this. This is the kind of company that I want to shop with, that I want to talk about, that I want to tell people about. And I wanted you guys to know this. Now, I'm no way affiliated with Baker Creek. I'm too small a channel to have those kind of affiliations at this point. But I want you to know because, like me, you guys are probably small gardeners, and where you spend your money, what products you buy, the companies you deal with, it matters. It matters to you and it matters to me. And I wanted you to know that this is an outstanding company. And I'm really grateful for them for doing this. And they didn't have to because I would have used them either way. And if I had gotten Thai basil seeds from them, I really wouldn't have noticed because I just plant my basil in blocks all together and all over the garden. And I plant all kinds of basil. So I probably didn't even notice. But thank you, Baker Creek, and all of you guys out there. Buy your seeds from good companies. It's worth it. Let's talk about how to cure squash and to be able to keep them for as long as you can. You want them to stay edible and usable for many months. Squashes like Waltham butternut, if cured well, can last for probably close to a year. Smaller squashes like acorn squashes, maybe not so long. Some 3 months, some 6 months. You're going to want to check your squash pretty often. This one's already cured and this one isn't. This one just came off the vine. When you know your squash is ripe and you pick it and you bring it in, leave it a long neck. When you bring it in, you're gonna actually wash it. So just a little bit of vinegar and water. I give it a good wash. And then this is going to be set in a sunny spot and not too hot, not too cold, just a nice sunny spot. In my case, I put it in my sunroom out of direct sunlight, but it's warm in there. We have a great big dog crate with a blanket on top of it, and that's where I cure my squash. And I really leave it there until it starts to get, the nights start to get right about starting to get it freezing. At that point, I bring the squash in and I put it inside or downstairs, but in the meantime, it's a perfect place for it because it's very airy in there, it's warm, and they cure beautifully. So once you set this out to cure, you're going to let it cure for 2 to 4, 6 weeks. It will take that long to get these nice and dry, and in that amount of time, the rind of it, the skin of it, is going to get harder and thicker. It's going to hold in the moisture. It's going to dehydrate just a little bit, which is going to make the sugars inside of the fruit much more predominant. So when you eat this, it will taste more sweet. It's just like sweet potatoes. When you cure those, they get sweeter too. It's the same thing from that. And if you cure this well, like I said, you may be able to eat these squash for up to a year before they will start to spoil. So I am going to wash all of the squash I brought in, and it doesn't matter what kind of squash. I still wash them and let them sit. Now, you have to wash them, you know. Did your grandmother wash them? Probably not. And you don't want to wash them in warm soapy water. You don't want to put them in water. You don't want to soak them in any way. I'm just trying to clean off any, like I said, funguses, anything like that, from sitting in the dirt, mites, parasites, any kind of little bugs I might have missed, like aphids or anything else. So that's all I'm going to do. And even the green stem pieces that I'm leaving on, I'm going to wash them. And it gets some of the dirt off too. But I'm really just trying to get them clean enough to help retard them from spoiling faster. And that's it. And then they just go on my rack to dry and cure until I eat them. Isn't this pretty? For some reason it came out white. I don't know why. There's another green one out there that grew also green. There were a couple of white ones. One of the white ones just didn't make it. And then there's a nice big green one too. So I'm probably going to save seeds from this if it's edible and tastes good and plant it again, because I did not plant this. And what do you do when your family members won't eat the squash that you grow and you don't want to be the only one eating it all? You mix it into smoothies. Smoothies are ready. Well, as always, thank you for joining me today while we talked about picking and curing squash for winter to make sure that you have it all year long. And it's always a pleasure spending time with you. I so appreciate your likes, comments, and shares. It helps so much. And what do you do with the little squashes that never quite got right? They're nice and soft and pliable. See my thumbnail? You eat them like they're zucchini. Just chop them up, pan fry them, put a little butter on them. Just eat them. I'll see you next time. Take care.